I would like to call the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock. This is the Litchfield Budget Committee on January 6th. And if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next agenda item is community input. I don't see anybody in the audience, and I don't hear anybody running down the hall. Review and revision of the agenda. Are there any changes? Other than adjourning. We have two sets of minutes. We have the minutes from December 16th and December 18th. I'm assuming everybody had the opportunity to take a look at them.
Now, in my defense, I was very tired. It could be mistakes in there.
So let's start with the December 16th. Is there any changes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as received?
So made.
Is there a second? Second. It's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions?
That's me.
Aye.
I didn't read it.
So there were three
Yeah.
abstentions.
Three abstentions.
So 703. No.
603.
603. December 18th.
Same thing. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 18th.
Is there a second? Second. It's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes of December 18th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained?
Aye.
So 3 abstentions there as well, so 603. Alrighty then, correspondence. We had an email with tax rate calculations based on the actions as of December 18th, done by Bill Spencer, and those were forwarded to everybody. And then a letter that you directed me to write that was in HLN last Friday. And I'm not aware of any other correspondence that I remember. All right, moving on to town business, budget voting. This is the opportunity. We've gone through all of the line items. We've made changes, reductions, additions, as needed, and this is our opportunity for the town, if they have any changes, to make those changes. And then after those changes, any changes that the committee wants to make before we vote on final numbers. So we'll start with the town and see if you've got anything for us.
Trying to find actually where it is. Where's the,
You would go in personnel administration. You have to add the line in, but that's where it would be.
okay. So on account 4155, Personnel Administration. Find is it here?
Did you just call it, we'll call it 910.
So what ended
for
up
sake of
happening is
discussion.
that the line item number was struck from here because that was the vote of the Budget Committee last time this budget was discussed. But I would like to make a motion to add $30,000 to the Personnel Administration budget line.
There's a motion to add $30,000 to the personnel administration line.
Second. Specifically, do you have a line that you're adding there?
I don't have the line number. I was asking
Oh,
Jason
okay.
that a couple seconds ago, and like I said, that was struck when we went over this last time, so I'm not sure what the line number is.
Alrighty.
Second? Second. Okay.
Yeah.
So the $30,000 is a request for the Budget Committee to basically do what they've done in the same fashion for the school board, which is to put non-bargaining employee wage increases into the budget. That was done at the school board. It was a cut from the town's budget, and I think that we ought to be doing both of them the same way.
I would tend to agree with you, except I think we made a mistake by leaving the money in the school budget. I do see a slight difference in that what the town is proposing is a new wage table, which really is looks like a 3-year plan. And to me, that probably should go to the voters. And when we go to do the school budget on Thursday, I'm going to make a motion to move that money out of the school budget, so.
I'm going to second it.
All right, further discussion?
Just so I understand, this is Article 14 of the warrants that you're referring to?
Right, what it would basically do is take Article, whatever number you referenced, Mr. Cutter, and it would delete that warrant article and put it into the budget as effectively.
Thank you.
I think it's important this does go to the voter. This is just a small section of the new wage table. Many tens of thousands of dollars would follow. Some of the criteria was used that, towns folks, they, deserve a raise, and nobody is arguing that. That is not what, in my opinion, what the discussion is about. It's a discussion of letting the voters make this decision instead of the people at this table and putting it in the budget. Because, again, this is a small part of it, and if this committee agrees, well, then, in fairness, you would have to agree to the 80 or 100,000 that's going to be in it next year, and anything else that the Board of Selectmen choose, rightfully, they have the right to choose to put in there, because or else you have to just change your philosophy on the next years and say, no, we agreed last year, but we don't agree on this one. If it goes to the voters, it's affirmative, and this could have been something that was already implemented if it would have went to the voters in a warrant last year or the year before, but it
It
hasn't.
did.
It didn't go in a warrant last year.
It went 2 years ago. You may recall the Budget Committee did not recommend it 2 years ago.
No.
So the point is that you mentioned $80,000. I take exception to the fact that there appears to be an inflated number, because nobody's ever said what the number would be next year. Nobody's ever said it would be $80,000. I don't know where you're coming up with that number. And that doesn't mean that the Budget Committee has to approve it. The Budget Committee can take any budget, case by case, and make any decisions they want on it, year to year to year. And that doesn't affect that at all. So if the Board of Selectmen come forward with this in the budget, then next year, the Budget Committee can quite simply say, no, we don't believe, to use your numbers, 80,000 is the right number, 10,000 is the right number, or 4,000, or 20,000, or pick some other number in between. I think the other thing that you've got to take and understand is that we are getting, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, to the end of the line in terms of what the employees of the town have confidence in both boards, the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee, to go forward with this. And I think we're going to be in a situation at some point, if we don't do something affirmatively about this, of having to deal with a request to unionize. We had that before in the past. When I was a freshman selectman, we ended up having to deal with the unionization request of firefighters as well as the town hall staff. We ended up taking a look at that, and I think the problem that that brings is no longer are you going to be dealing with trying to do $30,000 adjustments in the budget. Everything at that point then becomes a negotiating strategy. Board of Selectmen will no longer be able to take and do anything with insurance, which we've done in the past of being able to take and change policies. The Board of Selectmen will no longer be able to do things within the budget because those will become bargaining unit issues. And I think it's time that we basically sat down as a group, both the Selectmen and the Budget Committee, and made an affirmative decision that we're going to deal with it. The town employees since 2008 have had, 2 raises. That's been it. And if they look at the police department, which they compare themselves to, believe me, they're going to see the advantages in their minds of forming a union. And I think that's something that we could head off if we take an action.
May I respond? The $80,000 I got was direct from the Board of Selectmen. The number directly was spoken, was $110,000 was discussed. That was an actual number. And so 30 now, minus, from the 110, 80 was left. So that's where I got the number from. So it was spoken at the Selectmen's meeting. You said the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee should sit together and do something. I think the Board of Selectmen, the Budget Committee, and the voters should work together on this. I think there's a better chance. You said the police have gotten raises. Why? Because they went direct to the voters, and the voters affirmatively said yes. There is a risk, again, it could be in the budget, and the budget could fail. And then, so you had the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee agreeing on something, but then the voters could say no, which means they don't get the raise. So I think it's great to get the voters in on this and make it affirmative. You speak about the union as if it's a negative thing, and obviously people have, opinions both ways on unions in general. But what you're saying is, if we don't make a decision, the people in this room, to do something, then they might unionize, which means then they will have to go to the voters to get an affirmative answer, which is basically what my opinion is now. Go to the voters and get the affirmative. So it's really the same thing. So what you're saying is we should do something because you don't want to bring it to the voters, because the only other option is they'll unionize, which will then have to go to the voters. So let's just bring it to the voters now, and just like we did with the police contract. And if they decide to unionize, then so be it.
Well, I think when you unionize, there's a lot more that becomes up for, out of the selectmen's
agree.
control
Agree.
than just wages. And so this is can be seen as a quick, an easy and painless way to hold off on some of those other more painful things that you'll have to deal with.
I agree. I think unionization would be a huge mistake, but the only other option is if you're saying is we need to take this decision out of the voters' hands as an individual warrant for fear that they're going to unionize. I think that's a bigger mistake. So I would rather not bury this in the budget and maybe have the whole budget fail. I would love to see this to go to the voters. That's just my opinion, and I agree with Bill and Ray that even on the school side it should be that way.
And just, my opinion is, I don't have a problem with an amount in the budget that the selectmen then have the discretion. If someone's doing a good job and they merit an increase, they give them an increase. If someone doesn't, they don't get one. And it's just their discretion. I think when you then put it on a warrant article, I think some of that discretion goes away and everybody gets a flat amount whether they merit it or not. In terms of, and the discussion kind of meshes a little bit with this Article 14. If Article 14 is meant to be a 3-year plan and this will approve a 3-year plan, then I think it belongs in a warrant article. But if you're talking about a discretionary pool of funds that allows you to reward people who are doing a good job, then I think that's a different thing and that should be in the budget. So it kind of depends on what we're talking about.
Well, rewards is different than salary, right, and merit increases,
Yes.
right? So what you're talking about is, I would consider different than what the intention, I believe, of what you're saying.
And that's what I'm trying to mesh out, is if you're talking about the warrant article and it's a 3-year plan, then that should be in a warrant article. If you're talking about merit increases, I don't have a problem putting a 30,000 or whatever the right number is.
We're trying to get people onto a grid, okay? There was a amount of work that was performed to try and bring some sanity to the levels of pay for the people commensurate with their jobs. And what we're trying to do is get them onto a grid. Right now, we have not been able to do that. And we have not been able to do that because all of the times that we've tried this, it's failed. At some point, yes, we want to go to a merit-based system that rewards people for meritorious work. And how we get there, first step, is to get them lined up within their job levels that make sense for the work that they're doing. And so far, we've not been able to do that.
So would your plan gonna institute a step system then, so every year they move
They have
up a
steps.
step? They have steps now?
This doesn't, well, hold on, this does
No, that's
away
not
with
true.
steps.
Okay.
Once we get people into a band, there is a band start, middle, end for each position. Once we get people into that band, then we move annually to a merit-based approach where they may move within that band,
Okay.
but there's no guarantee just because you're there another year. So it is a huge change from the step, your butt's been in the seat another year, you get a raise. The difficulty we have at the moment is we have the structural problem of getting people into those bands before we can implement a merit approach.
Okay, then my other question would be, I like the idea. Would the person awarding the increase be the town administrator or the board of selectmen?
It would be, in most cases, both of us working together.
Is the intent, if this warrant article passes, to implement it over the next 3 years? Is that what the intent is?
That's,
And get
yeah.
everybody in the band you want them in, then move forward?
That's how we've written it. If you look at our plan, we wrote a 3-year transition to try to get people into the band. As people get into the band, then we can start moving those people to the merit approach.
So you must have some order of magnitude of cost to do that over the 3-year period.
Yeah, I think it was, I think the 110 may be an overstatement. I think I had looked at something like 30, 30, 20 or something.
See, if this stays as a warrant article, I can guarantee that somebody at the deliberative session will ask, well, what's the year 2 or 3 impacts? So we know what the total impact is. And I think that's good. I think we should know it and understand what's happening here. And that's why I think this particular thing belongs in a warrant article, because you're really voting on a completely new wage structure, basically.
The selectmen already
Selectmen
voted
adopted. Yeah, I
on
know
it
they did.
because it is their authority that they voted on in December of 2013,
I
because
understand
they set the wage schedule.
I understand that. But you're asking the voters now to, yeah, we agree, we're going to fund it. That's what you're doing. And I think that's the right thing to do. So I would not put this back in the operating budget. No, different animal completely.
And how many people does this involve? I mean, how many people in the office? 8, 10, 12?
I have to go back and count. I think this probably is going to cover 12 to 15.
And you factored, what, maybe 3% a year?
No, there's no
Per
percent. No, I haven't factored. I can't
Well,
even
how
get
did you get to the number?
I haven't even gotten to a percentage per year yet. It's not a cost of living. What I got to was I used 2-year-old data now. It's now, the data is now out of date, and I now need to revise it again. It's basically market comparison for similar positions. Dropped people in there, looked at where they are versus what the board agreed were like the benchmark numbers for those. So in some cases, some people have a small distance to go to be
Yeah.
in that band, and in some cases, we are very far off for where that position should be. So so it's not a one-size-fits-all percentage.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yep,
If I recall, when I looked at the backup on this, the police chief is in this also?
yeah.
Even though he's a,
We put myself, the police chief, right. I mean, we need to have reference points. It doesn't do me any good to have us not in the schedule, even as reference
oh,
points.
yeah, separate contract.
Right,
Yeah.
because our numbers should be related somehow to that. And in fact, we have a benchmark spot. I used a benchmark for a police sergeant who is clearly not in the contract, but it's a reference point for job composition.
Any further discussion?
I understand keeping it with the voters in a warrant article, and it kind of covers them in case the budget doesn't pass, but, I mean, a lot of warrant articles, isn't that kind of a bad way on certain things, like a lot of, with the schools, the parking lots, things that are,
Depends what your philosophy is.
Yeah.
Look at
Ask
last
the-
year,
ask
the
the
things
people.
that were on warrant articles passed.
Peop-
We ended up with a computer teacher, the computer lab was not in the warrant article, we had no computer lab.
budgets
unless
failed,
they-
but most of the warrants passed.
People are free to stop voting at any time in the ballot. I mean, they're free to stop doing that, but more choice, in my opinion, is always better. More choice, not less. So if we vote affirmative on this, that means if we vote yes, that means the money is going in the budget, and it
No,
won't,
just the opposite.
it won't, and then it won't go on a warrant if we vote in the affirmative.
See how you're making it up at the State House there, right?
Well, look, and I just, one last thing, because you know the word's gonna go around. This is not about do the people deserve raises, are raises overdue, are they underpaid? From my point of view, and I don't think anybody else in this room is talking about that part of the issue. I believe we're talking about who should make the decision on it, not whether it's deserved or not.
Yeah, this is about funding a 3-year plan and where that should be. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of adding $30,000 to personnel administration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Any abstain? All right, I think that was 3 and 6, so the motion fails. Anything else?
Two. It was 6.
6, 8,
No,
9.
that-
Oh, sorry.
Anything else that the town has to bring forward?
What was the line item for the, the problem is the budget is, been modified, so I'm dealing with lines that don't exist anymore, and it's tough to try and figure out what those lines were.
There's always impact for changing things.
It's in 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah, they already took it out.
Yes, I'd like to go to count 4150.2,
What is that?
Information technology.
information technology.
Mine's not in the same order as yours.
Slide, Jason, you got what? IT manager.
Yeah.
That's the thing, okay. I'd like to make a motion to amend line 630 by the addition of $12,000.
All right, there is a motion to add $12,000 to line 630.
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
This is the discussion that we had a while ago concerning the stipend for the IT manager. The IT manager at that time was accused of having a conflict of interest, which, to be honest with you, has actually gotten back to his company and was part of his performance discussion, so that's how much that has impacted him.
Actually, just to correct you there was no conflict of interest. There were 4 times in the minutes that I reminded the committee that this was about a position and not about a person.
But it was stated by members that there was a conflict of interest.
It was stated it could be a conflict of interest, or it could be perceived to be a conflict
So
of
as
interest.
point is it got back
as I was
Okay.
saying,
Big
the-
difference, though. Go ahead,
Let-
sorry.
let him finish.
the situation is we need somebody to monitor that. Chairman Couture appeared in front of the Board of Selectmen meeting and stated that the Budget Committee simply needed a plan, and basically the plan is, no matter how you do this, somebody, whether an outside firm or somebody inside, has to monitor and maintain and manage the IT infrastructure for the town. There's no other way to do it. You can't have a computer do it, you can't have a machine do it, you can't have anything other than a person doing that monitoring, keeping the updates going and everything else. We would like to have that stipend put back into the budget, and that stipend would be used to provide to the person managing that IT infrastructure some type of compensation for the amount of work that they put in. And we feel that that's the right thing to do.
I have a question on that one. It was my understanding that this was the first year of like a 5-year transition to a full-time position. Is that not the case? Is it going to continue to be 12,000?
The person currently doing that now has stated that probably sometime in that period I think you're talking about, that they would they're probably going to leave the board, I'm guessing, and not do that anymore.
So it's 12,000 this year, and my understanding was we were gonna ramp it up until it was the anticipated replacement cost. So 12,000 this year becomes 20 next year, 30 the following, 40, and then 50.
No.
If we're gonna continue with the philosophy of ramping it up, which is how it was described, in which case it's adding a position. We're ramping up a new position.
We're wrapping up a contract at some point with somebody. Now, it's not the intention of the board to keep adding money to a stipend to an individual. At some point, we're going to have to take and we're going to have to purchase these services from outside. Now, I would not be in favor.
So why don't you not call it a
I would
stipend?
not be in favor of ramping up a stipend to anybody. If the stipend is established at $12,000, I'm personally convinced, and I'm sure the rest of the board would be as well, that it stays there until at some point we need to hire an outside firm to do that work. And then at that point, we have to pay whatever that prevailing cost would be.
Frank, if you don't get the stipend for 12,000, what do you figure it would cost you for the year, for someone to do that type of
Well,
work?
I made a motion at the meeting, and I failed to get a second and was accused of laughing about it and doing it as a joke, but it would cost us approximately $60,000.
So why not make the stipend $60,000?
It depends on how the vote goes for 12,000. It's more cost-effective to do 12,000 than it is 60,000.
Well, were we looking for cost effectiveness or getting paid? So how did you get to 12,000? Like, did you compensate hours? What was the basis? How come not 11,500 or 12,200? Like, what was the formula used to get to 12,000
The formula is a very sophisticated formula of $1,000 a month. And multiply that by 12, we got $12,000. We knew the market price was 60, there was no interest in calling it 60. But we, sort of the relative difference between 0 and 60 said, hey, $1,000 a month is a nominal stipend for that.
So just a random number, basically.
Yeah, and at some point, if it goes away and that line above, the contracted computer services line goes up, because we would never hire full freight in-house.
Do we have a history for the contract? Is it a flat fee contracted computer service for 6,000? Or is that when they do some work, they send it to them?
It's a little of both. We budget $6,000. We have them come in at odd times, for example, when the individual's on vacation and fill in and do the backup and stuff. So some of that $6,000 is used to fund those periods of time. Other times, it may be that they come in to do some work simply because, for example, there's too much work to do for one individual, so they may handle some of that work.
So ultimately, my question is, do we have a historical data point for how much of the contracted computer services we use? And then maybe use that to extrapolate to an actual number?
The historical data is unfortunately not going to be very useful. We just moved to this company 2 years ago, and our first year was basically a fixed fee for them. We weren't paying them on an on-call basis, so we paid them, and we had them available to us, and we had a certain number of hours. When we didn't use them for emergency-type work, we deployed them on project work. So we used the money we paid them.
Because for me personally, having done budgets, I'm never comfortable with random numbers. I have a hard, because why not make it 500 a month? So it's just, to me, without any backup or anything to justify that number,
The $6,000 number that's in there, that you're talking about the contract, that's a good number. And that's the way most consulting firms work. You give them, at the beginning of the year, you give them a block of money. They work off the block, they usually give you a discounted rate. The stipend is an entirely different
Right.
thing.
So, but we would have an idea as to how many hours we use the contract, and then we could say, well,
And that's not even,
and then, so you need,
What we're using the contract for is a drop in the bucket compared to the actual hours we're using. You cannot connect that
I'm
to
just trying to-
the other services that we're getting that we're calling for a stipend.
I understand that.
Okay. If we were paying, and I think this goes back to what we've said before, if we were paying the contracted service for probably 60% of the hours we're getting for free right now, we'd be paying $60,000 a year. So there's your context.
So the $12,000 stipend will save the town $48,000.
Right,
And that's
exactly.
why I know I voted yes on this as a taxpayer, that it made sense, although people see this as in a different perspective.
Bill, did you have?
Yeah, we're talking contract services on one hand, which would normally be in the operating budget. The way this is, as I understand, because I missed the meeting, as I understand, this is presented as a position with a stipend, which is not a contract service. And by my take, you ought to be asking for that position. So are the selectmen opposed to having a separate warrant article for this position?
We feel that it's critical to have IT support. If the IT
you.
infrastructure of the town goes down, we lose all our tax records, all the ability to take and manage car registration.
Understand that.
We lose all telephone communication.
Understand
We
that.
lose our police
Wasn't my
records and
question.
It's
everything.
being taken care of,
Wasn't
though.
my question.
The situation we have is we can either take and contract this out or hope and pray that the individual doing this now continues to do this without compensation.
But you proposed a stipend, which makes sense. And so why don't you put it on as a separate warrant article, as a,
So if we put it as a separate warrant article, and the warrant article goes through and fails,
yeah,
means we can't spend any money on it. So
you can't pay that individual a stipend?
it could trickle over other places.
I think you're stretching it, Frank. And that's number
Well,
one.
that's your opinion, and I
Yeah,
have no,
yeah.
I have respect for that, it's
Yeah.
not a problem. All I'm saying is,
but
I
you-
don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, to my take, you make a solid case why we need it. It's 12,000, 15, 12,000? Yeah. As a separate warrant article, let it fly through.
I know, I've heard that before,
Yeah, I know that, and you've seen it fly through.
and I've seen it fly through, and I've seen it
Yeah.
crash,
Okay.
auger in, we say in the trade.
But I think to come back to your point, if it fails, it doesn't mean you're in the same boat as if it wasn't in the operating budget. Yeah, I think it belongs as a separate warrant article, as a position, get it approved and funded.
I guess we have a unique circumstance because we have somebody who's willing to largely provide us off-market rate price. We would never be proposing hiring our own staff person at rate for this.
Yeah.
If the current person weren't available, we'd be doing a contract, period. So it's, right now, I happen to have the goodwill and, call it a stipend, call it an honorarium, call it whatever it is. So, it is not a sustained position forever and ever. It is a unique circumstance that we're trying to recognize, hey, this is probably something a little bit different than free, but my option is not hiring a person on staff. My alternative is hire a contractor, which is not usually a warrant article type standard. So that's the box that we're in on this.
Could have put it into contracted services and contracted with that person, just like you contract with the other company that you have in there right now. And it wouldn't have brought up any of those conversations. It just would have been what you needed to do. And I agree with Frank, you have to have somebody maintaining the stuff. You can't rely on just your break-fix emergency support from your third-party vendor there. Yeah, John's really your primary person, and that guy will always know it best.
And to be honest with you, Ray, and counter to your point of just put it into contract services, if we had done that and contracted the individual doing it today, we'd be accused of doing all types of nefarious things.
Why do you think?
Why do I think, Chris? Do you really want me to go through that?
Seriously, you brought it up, why would you think?
Can I finish my?
Let Ray finish.
To be honest with you, I would have made, if I was you in your position, I think I would have made a motion to increase contracted services, put a warrant article in for the position, so that if the warrant article passes, you would take the money out of contracted services, and if it didn't, you would have the money in there that you needed. And I'm just saying, from my point of view, you do need to maintain the town's IT services. How you do that is, I guess, it's the town's business, not ours. Ours really at this point is, do we put the $12,000 in or take the $12,000 out based on, can we afford it or not?
12,000's already
And-
out.
Hmm?
The 12,000's already out.
Right.
But that's,
It's a matter of
but that's really what
So-
we're talking
so-
about.
So the point you raised about why didn't we put it in as a contracted service? I made that motion. It didn't get a second. I was accused of making it as a joke.
It wasn't $12,000.
Oh, that was the Board of at the Board of Selectmen you made that.
No,
I made it here, right here.
Wasn't it like 60,000 or something?
Yes, it was.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Oh, 60,000,
Yeah.
not 12.
So I have trouble budgeting for unique circumstances because if it's unique, that means it might not be there tomorrow. If you had to take $12,000 and advertise for somebody to accept that as a stipend, I wonder how successful we'd be in getting somebody to take $12,000. I would rather, I think, do what Ray said, and if you know a numbers per, an hours needed and a per dollar amount, I would rather budget for that, and then you're free to distribute it whoever comes forward that's qualified. But I'm not comfortable budgeting for a unique set of circumstances because they're gone tomorrow. To me, that's still not a plan. I'm still stuck with, well, sometime in 5 years, we're gonna, to me, that's not a plan.
Can I respond? That makes so much sense, and that is the point that was stated here in the past and was just stated again by you. Because the same way we said if that same person just doesn't show up tomorrow, then that $12,000 isn't going to cut it. And this committee had asked months ago for a plan, and I saw no action and still no plan. The plan is still, we just want $12,000 to give to the guy that's currently doing it. That is not a plan. I believe there was enough time to get a plan made. There was no plan. Everybody at this table said if a comprehensive plan was brought, people would fund it because it is a necessity. So I know you keep saying that we need to run the town's computers and right, there's no need to say it. That's obvious. We're not saying don't maintain this stuff. What we're saying is bring us a plan to properly fund it. And then this committee would have, I bet, approved the plan as the contract. But the $12,000, like Cindy just said, that's not a plan. That's just $12,000.
To come up with the plan, what am I going to write down? Let's see. I could write down that potentially the individual is going to leave in 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. That's the best I'm going to come up with for a plan.
Oh, I see, but
There's- Please let me finish, Mr. Patrick.
I thought you were done, I'm sorry.
No, sometimes I take a breath.
That's fine. I usually don't, so I could use.
I know, that's why I pointed out
So you
the
can
breathing
understand.
aspect of
Okay.
talking in public. So, there's no other options for the town than to contract this service or to continue with the way we're doing it today. I think it makes the best sense for the citizens, rather than spend the money for a contracted service, to do it this way. I'm not going to be able to go out and tell you with any certainty how many years we're going to have the services of the individual that we have today. He could get hit by a bus or police cruiser or
Win the lottery.
win the lottery and move somewhere else. I have no idea. I can't give you a plan, other than to say that's what we were trying to do, is to make the most cost-effective decision. At the end of the day, somebody, and I think Mr. Peoples agrees with this, somebody, a human being, has to manage this system. And it's got to be a proactive management. It can't be a reactive management. We tried that before. It doesn't work.
Now I understand. When I say a plan, if we were still stuck on the way we're doing it now, it is tough to make a plan. When I said make a plan, determine how many hours it takes to maintain the system, get a quote from a contractor, have them assess the entire system, how many computers we have, how many, whatever all of this stuff is, and put a number together and say, this is what it would cost for us, XYZ contracting company, to maintain your computer system. That's the number. but we seem to be focused on one specific person that we really want to pay to do this. So if we're focused on that, it's tough to see beyond that and realize that we can get quotes and numbers, and the entire system needs to be analyzed to come up with a number.
We've given you a number, but nobody seems to want to hear that we've been saying the $60,000 number. Core, minimal, basic coverage, $42,000 a year. For any incident on top of that, $150 an hour, plus two-way travel from Bedford. You tell me how many incidents I'm going to have, you put a factor on that, our best estimate was call that 18. So 42, 18, there's your 60.
We do have quotes.
Where, the issue I have is, we got a number that is sort of your basic level of service, but I can't tell you what's gonna break and how frequently it's gonna break.
This is really simple to me. And I know some committee members will probably disagree, and that's okay. That's why we're here talking about it. I would be fully supportive of a warrant article for the full 60,000, or whatever the number is. Let's get it in the budget, let's sell it to the voters, let's get this position hired. Problem solved.
I'm up for that.
It's not a position.
It's not a position.
It's
It
a
will
con-
be.
It's a contracted service.
Well, then get it in for,
What if the school would be willing to help out with this?
The school's looking to hire their own.
Subcontracting. Huh?
The school's looking to hire their own.
We can't split.
Well, I mean,
They had more than $60,000.
I understand that. And maybe, you can share. How about that for an idea?
We've discussed that as a board. And with the board technically doesn't have much of a problem with that. But at the same time, we've got to take and put some money towards that, because the school's not going to come over and say, hey, you guys are great guys, we'll give it to you for nothing. Would you?
And you say put on a warrant article
Paying
for
gasoline, though.
$60,000.
I have one more thing I'd just like to add to this. I think, and this is not the Budget Committee's purview or decision, but I think the town, and on the whole, if we don't address the issue as being short-sighted, because Frank Byron has pointed out two things tonight. 100% agree that the systems need to be maintained. Absolutely need to be maintained, or they're not going to be running. The second thing that he said is John could get hit by a bus. And the reality is, if we, the town, put all our eggs in one basket and don't really have a plan for spreading that out, and have people that have complete overall admin rights and have that distributed and passwords put in envelopes and safety deposit boxes and stuff like that, not only could we be held hostage, we could be down and out because somebody physically just gets hurt, slips and falls in the parking lot, hits their head, God forbid, we, the town of Litchfield, are in trouble. So I would support the warrant article for the whole position, and how they work it out between the towns and the schools, or what they do if they get the position approved and they only do a stipend for somebody part-time, more power to them, but they need to address the root problem. The root problem is single point of failure, and that's what we have.
All right, we've kind of gone around and around. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of adding $12,000 to line 630, which is equipment maintenance, I guess, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So it fails 3-6-0. Anything else?
Madam Chair, I'd like to work on account 4150.20, line 630, and I would like to add $60,000 to line 630.
Second.
Motion and a second to add $60,000 to line 630.
Excuse me, I'd like to go back on that. It's not 60,000, it would be 54,000.
54,000.
Second.
54,000, and there is a second. Further discussion?
The intention at this point, and you heard we have quotes, the quotes are for 42,000 or 42 and some change. And that does not include IT coming on site for the time. We've got to cover this function, and if the Budget Committee feels that it's more effective to do it as a contract, then fine, we'll do it as a contract, and that's the cost of the contract.
Prior to voting, would it be nice to see the contract? I'm not prepared to make a decision this time. I'm sure I'm not the one who wants a copy of the contract.
No, I
I don't know,
certainly.
but I think so. You told me 60.
Alright, so this is 12 vendor RTM, not sure what that is. Frequent visitation.
So Jay, why don't you ask Jason if you can go through that? That's what Jason
Hold on,
has.
I now need to.
Do
He-
you-
He'll need to bring it up, so.
I now need to find it again.
And this just says desk side support, general user assistance, software updates monthly, server side maintenance, user printer,
Yep.
Google Apps, Cisco Call Manager, 50 devices, Cisco Unity Connection, voicemail, business applications, EMSI, Avatar, quarterly software updates, vendor assistance, backups, and data transfers, police department, in-car computer support, communications modules, IMC, perform applications, in-house video and audio systems, network infrastructure, core network, town hall, fire department, border firewall, 2 devices, wireless Cisco, 3G, 4G network, Carter Station. That subtotal is $32,640. 12-month frequent visitation, on-demand support, not covered by monthly scheduled visits, 8 hours per month estimated. For any on-demand call after 5 p.m. a weekend, time and a half will be added to the rate. That is $9,600. Professional services, P&M, non-contact rate per hour plus 2-way travel from Bedford, New Hampshire will be added for $150. So a grand total of $42,390.
Is this the company that's currently, we paid the 6,000 to?
Yes.
Did you get competing bids, 3 bids?
Nope.
Thought out there and qualified.
So that's a budgeting number. I mean, this is not a guaranteed.
Yeah, and bearing in mind, as I said, that
Budgeting.
42 does not include any incidents outside of the regular schedule. So, which is unreasonable to think that that will ever happen. This is a monthly on-site day, which is that first bundle you see covering all of the various things that are there. The second item is, okay, there's going to be an expectation that they put a placeholder in for 8 hours a month for other items. And then the last note is that $150 an hour plus mileage for anything outside of that, and then evenings and weekends, time and a half. So that's our best estimate that's why we said put 18 on top of it.
So this is for $42,390, and the motion was for $54,000. So what is the difference cover?
The unplanned time, the 42 is bare bones. So the additional 18 covers incidents beyond bare bones at the 150 or more per hour.
Now, we do have a track record we can go on. So our current IT manager, Mr. Brunel, how many hours is he spending a week? So we know if this, because that's proven, we know.
Right. Significantly more than this. We asked him to back, we can't maintain the level of service we get from John.
When we toured the town hall, I believe somebody said it was 3 to 5 hours a week, because we saw the mainframes.
Yeah, and my notes say 8
Mainframe.
hours a week.
8 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, 3 plus 5.
Yeah.
No, I'm shaking
Yeah,
my
I-
head because it's not 3 to 5. I know it's much more than that.
Yeah, I
believe
think
it. I believe it. We
eight
saw
is
the
probably a
mainframes.
low
That's
ball.
why,
Well, it's not just the mainframes that you talk about, it's also.
it's all the laptops and all the, something new.
Police cruisers and
updates.
everything else
I
as well.
understand.
So he was doing 8, and you told him to scale it back to?
No, I didn't tell him to scale back anything. What we understood is if we had to pay $150 an hour for that service, we can't maintain the level of service we get from him. That's the scale back.
Okay, so when you went out to quote, it might have been quoted at 5 hours.
No, I didn't quote it at 10 to 12 hours like John Brunel gives us.
Yeah,
Oh, he's doing
that-
12 hours a week.
There are some weeks.
I believe he said that in the budget committee meeting
There,
when he
there
was
are
here.
some weeks.
I know it came up.
But I think he said some weeks he does very little or an hour or nothing, so I'm saying on average.
Regardless of how many hours it takes, that list is a very specific list of things they'll cover. It's not a per hour, it's a list of things that they will take care of.
That's a shotgun approach to that, and depends on what you need. I mean, there's no way anybody could quote this. This is impossible. Also, since Frank was kind enough to share that quotation with us, I have to abstain because I have a conflict of interest.
All right, we got rid of one vote.
That's it.
Anybody else got a conflict?
I was gonna vote yes too, by the way, Frank, you know.
I'm just kidding, Ray.
And to me, this is more of, if you don't want to spend all of it, I applaud you for finding a way to save it. But this is a more reasonable, this is what the job requires, and this is what it costs to do that job. Even though it's more, this makes more sense.
Yeah,
Why can't it be a warrant article?
it does, but as a taxpayer, like, how many taxpayers might be watching this shaking their heads?
We can't have this as a warrant article. I mean, if this does go down, we are dead in the water, I'll guarantee it, because that system breaks down, and at that point in time, the failure of the warrant article basically is,
You mean a warrant article for the contract?
Well, this
This-
is contracted
Because it's
services.
54,000? I wouldn't do that.
This is contracted services, I think we're talking about. I think if you want a position, I think a position would be better off in a warrant article, in whether you attach dollars to it or not. But this is different, this is contracted services.
I was reacting to Mr. Cutter's comment about going forward
I just said, why
with,
can't
this
it
is
be
a
a
warrant article.
Oh.
And I'm just saying that would, if it does break down subsequent to that and the warrant article failed, we're out of business.
Yeah.
I'm ready to vote.
Any further discussion?
I mean, would it not be possible just to have a part-time IT person serving the town?
We can go back and motion the 12?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you realize this conversation, I mean, it's getting into area where obviously they'll say it's not our purview, right? What's going on, but we all know what's really going on. We really know what this conversation's about, and we really know, is that the real number or not? I don't know.
And you have some other things in there. It's a little hard to define a part-time person, because I have to come in to defense of the town.
Right.
Because,
Right.
in the end, ultimately, I know that John's went to get his clearance for police data and things like that. Being an IT administrator comes with great power. It also comes with great grief. You know, you can't put somebody in an IT position like that, part-time, and expect them to do the job. The school has the same problem. You're not gonna get somebody that's gonna come in 5 hours a week and do that work, unless he's like John, and he just happens to be he has the skill set, and he has the clearances. It's not an easy thing. There's things that the selectmen have that aren't public data. They have HR records, which are not public data. You have the police stuff that's on the police side. It's not public data.
That's
So you just can't drop somebody in there.
Right.
That's fine. If we need that, if that's the money, if that's the due diligence there, let's vote to put it
Is
in.
that the right answer, though?
It's-
Like, could it be sharing a person between the two, and then they're in the same?
Could be, but they don't have
could
that.
be, but that's not what this motion is.
That's a plan.
I'm not
We
comfortable-
don't have a person to share.
I'm not comfortable with this because I don't know that there's enough of a, I'm not comfortable if this is the right answer.
I don't think so either, but
They
that's
need
not our
an
decision,
answer.
right?
Somebody's gotta
It's not our
maintain it.
decision.
It's not our
I
decision.
know-
understand that, but I don't want to just say yes because, and then find out that we didn't have enough information to make the right decision.
You know, we've come to the budget committee and presented to you two options. One option is the stipend, the other option is this. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got to do something, and, all of us ran for election promising to do the right thing for the citizens, and I can guarantee you right now, if that system goes down, we will hear about it.
No, I understand that, and I'm not saying
Best
not
part is
to
it
maintain
only
the
fails in
system.
pieces.
But is contracting out the right thing to do, as opposed to having somebody in-house that, yes, there's no current
somebody in-house.
position.
Yeah,
There is somebody in-house, and I
For a
tried
lot-
that.
for a lot less money.
All right, let Terry finish, please.
But how do we know, the school's in a similar situation where they need somebody. Is there enough to fund a full-time position as opposed to having one person handle both? How do we know that that's not the right answer? Because nobody's looked at it.
Well, I can tell you, since a lot of that involves the type of work I do, I can tell you that finding somebody that knows, if you just look down the list of things that John's got in the budget there, that knows NetApp, Cisco, VMware, Windows, the desktop operating systems, and I can't remember the name of it, it escapes me, the software we put in the police cars. No, finding somebody that knows all those things is really difficult. John is a unique human. When you contract the service out to RTM, you're gonna get this handful of guys that are like Windows networking people, you get this handful of guys that are voice and phone experts.
I'm more
You-
diverse knowledge base.
Right, so you've got 10 people that's sharing all that knowledge base, and most of them don't share that. And
Contracting is better, in my opinion, than hiring somebody.
it spreads the intellectual wealth across a number of folks.
From that perspective, it makes sense. It's just the question of, is that the right answer? I don't know.
Did I call the question on?
Okay, the question has been called. No further discussion. All those in favor of adding $54,000 to line 630 of information technology budget, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
I'm gonna.
Oh, wait a second, I'm sorry, I abstained. I wanted to abstain. I
I'm
wasn't.
abstaining. I'm not comfortable voting on the
Yep.
contract. I haven't seen.
Okay, so there's 2 abstentions, so that is 702.
You're not gonna voice your opinion, Carrie?
I have not had an
have brain
opportunity to
fart.
review the proposal, so I'm not comfortable putting my stamp of approval on it.
All right. Anything further from the town?
If you don't use it, you can get another cruiser. Unbelievable. Get three, you know?
You know, the last HLN thumbs down talked about the levity in this budget committee and how we're joking, and I hope everybody understands this isn't a joke.
Don't ever listen to anything that those people write.
Those people?
Yeah, well, those people are write those negative comments like that because
That's enough.
Honestly, I feel like we get into some pretty hard discussions, and anytime we can crack a smile and bring it back to we're working as a team, I'm all for it.
I got to tell you, these conversations are serious here, and I believe everybody here takes them seriously, and we do our best, and nothing is taken lightly here. It's misconstrued a lot, and sometimes it's made personal, but it's not meant that way.
If you can break the tension by a small joke, like saying, I got rid of one.
No harm. No harm, yeah.
What else does the town have?
Yes.
Oh, what else?
And no,
Your battery ain't gonna make it.
I have nothing else.
I think the town rests its case.
So the healthcare, all those things are squared away,
Yeah, those were, they were within my original projection,
okay?
so there's no need to go back and revisit those.
All right, if there's nothing further from the town, then it is now the Budget Committee's opportunity to go through the different accounts, and if there's any changes you want to make since our votes, we need to vote on the bottom lines. So the first one, on the on the town's website, there is a summary. So I was going to go through the summary in that order, if that's okay.
You're talking, Madam Chair, the summary of the accounts?
Yes.
This one, Frank.
No, that's what I was looking at. I just
Okay.
want to make sure I had the right.
Yep.
It says 2015 summary on the Google Docs, is that what we're talking about?
Well, I'm under the 2015 budget, and there's a summary sheet there. That's
Yeah.
why I was
Yeah, it's the
asking the
same,
question.
it's the same.
Yes,
It's
2015
LinkedIn.
budget
Yeah.
summary. So the first account is 4130.10 executive. The budget committee stands right now is at 114,135. Are there any additional changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the bottom line of 114, 135.32.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? That was Dan. Hearing none, all those in favor of 4130.10 executive at 114,135, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
And any abstain? All right, so that would be 810 passes. All right, moving on to 4130.30 town meeting. Right now, the budget committee number stands at $6,689. Is there a motion? Any changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the bottom line of $6,689.
Second.
It's been made and seconded.
32 cents.
Oh, really? There's 32 cents there?
Yes, there's roundings in that summary file.
Oh,
We don't report cents to DRA,
yeah.
so.
I don't
Government has no
I don't see
sense.
them in the summary file, really?
In the actual budget files,
Oh,
there's a difference.
all right,
That's okay.
well, we're gonna skip the cents, so.
Okay, all right.
Just to make
I
life
just
easier.
want to make sure I reconcile at the end, that's all.
Okay, so it's 6689.
Got it.
Any further discussion?
Just get another PC.
Hearing none, all those in favor of 4130.30 town meeting at $6,689 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Madam Chair, would it be
Town clerk.
more effective? I see one of our members is getting a headache.
You're joking.
Yeah, I know. To just go through and anybody who's got any changes and then vote the bottom line of the whole thing?
It's up to the committee.
You have to do the form, right? So you have to do-
But what I'm assuming is when you vote the bottom line, you're approving all of
You're
those,
approving all of these numbers?
all those individual totals, and the exception would be if somebody says, I want to address ambulance, let's say, and
Mhm.
makes a change there, then we have to
It's
retotal.
The committee's will, if someone wants to make a motion for
I
something
will make a
different.
motion to approve the entire bottom line of the budget for $5,244,787, which is inclusive of the $54,000 recently added in.
All right, there's a
And
motion.
32 cents?
No sense in that out of it.
There's a motion for $5,244,787 as a bottom line. Is there a second?
Second?
It's actually 92.
All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to amend that.
All right,
Going back to the 419710 advertising, I'd like to, from that budget, make a motion to remove $6,715 from the bottom line of that budget.
Second that for discussion?
all right, let me
I'm sorry, which one was that?
Number again?
419710 advertising and regional associations. So from the bottom line of that budget, which is, the bottom line is 14,109,
And what was your motion? I'm sorry, 6,000.
to reduce it by $6,715.
Thank you.
6,700 and what was that?
$15.
All right. Discussion?
That's the only number I got. Last year, I said I made a mistake. I tried to take out one lump sum number. And this time, I just decided, I had some give and take, and some things I'll give on and recommend to the voters. But this one wasn't in the budget last year. They could choose to, subscribe again this year if they wanted to, but I just can't recommend that to the voters. I don't think it's good value.
$6,715, which is the New Hampshire Municipal Association membership?
Correct.
And you said that wasn't there last year?
That was not in the
Not there
budget
last
last year.
I see it in the budget last year.
Yeah, I do too.
It was not. It did not even make this table. The Board of Selectmen voted to not include it in the budget last year, so it did not come to this committee. It was after, the new year, then they, after we finished our budget process, they decided to spend the money and join.
See what to use it for?
Municipal Association?
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think
Through it
the
once, but-
Board of Selectmen included this in the budget because we feel that the membership and participation in the New Hampshire Municipal Association is valuable to the town. The Board of Selectmen believes that the information we gain from the New Hampshire Municipal is valuable for training of town personnel. It is valuable for the information that we receive concerning what happens in the legislature that will affect the town. And it is valuable from the ability to provide the town with information through its publications, through NHMA's publications, as to what are the current cases in court and what are the current issues that the town needs to be aware of. So we do believe that it is important. We do at times also use their facility as, which this committee has also been part of, going to their attorneys for opinions and that type of thing. So I think that the selectmen, when we put this in the budget, feel that it is a valuable service that we would like to continue.
Any further discussion?
So did you or did you not have it last year? Was it in there or was it not?
I believe it did not come through the budget. I'm not 100% certain on that.
In the timing of what came through here, it was not. There was some disagreement on the board at the time and a little bit of confusion with what we were doing and not doing. Ultimately, the board approved to go forward with it, which is why you see in the revised budget.
Because you had a bottom line budget.
Right, and the board stayed with it, as just about every town in New Hampshire is a member of the municipal association. We would be in a very small and unusual group if we chose not to continue a membership.
I believe there's only 2 municipalities that are not members.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of 4197, advertising and regional associations, a reduction of $6,750, and what would be the new bottom line?
$7,394.
$7,394. All in favor of that, of the reduction of $6,715, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Aye. It
That was a no.
all those in favor? All those in favor of the reduction? 3. All those opposed? Okay, so it fails 3-7. And any abstention? 3-7-0. 3-6-0, so I'm sorry, yeah.
I was going to say, we went up a member.
All right, so we are back to the bottom line. And
Well, I wanted to talk about 4194.
okay, can I just double check, what was your bottom line number, 88 or 78, 87?
I had 5,244,787.
787. All right. See that change you're talking about. Okay, go ahead. Is there any further discussion on?
4194, general government buildings. I spent some time trying to reconcile the various dollars per gallon, because every place it is $1 different. And then I also considered the current energy forecast for next year. And so I would like to make a proposal of a reduction in the do you want me to do individual fuel line items, or can I just do a composite?
I would say it would be easier to do a composite.
All right, the composite would be a reduction of $10,153. That would encompass propane, gasoline, the 2 gasoline line items, and diesel.
I'm sorry, that's general government facilities?
Yep.
Second.
All right, so 4194.10, and it's,
Unless I don't.
so it's electricity, propane.
It's propane, gasoline for the town, gasoline for the school, and then diesel fuel.
Okay.
And what's your number now?
I have no idea what the new number is. I know what my reduction
The new number is 94,779.
So basically what I did is I took the I'm sorry, is there a second? You seconded.
What's the reduction you make?
10,153 between the 4 lines.
And you're taking the fuel line?
Yes.
So you bring that down to-
My numbers would come 1980 out of propane, 7840 out of the town's gas, 318 out of school's gas,
How much out of the town gas?
7,840. And then $15 out of diesel fuel. And I took the energy projections forecast from November that the government provides. It'd be, and I went higher than what they did on an average. For the first one, the propane, Parks and Recreation used $1.69 per gallon. I kept that number and applied it here. The gasoline for the town, I reduced it to $2.90 per gallon. It's forecasted significantly lower than that. So for the school, It's not broken out per gallon, but I did a proportionality comparison. And then for diesel fuel, they're budgeted at 365 versus, or I changed the number because it's, I think I did 350 per gallon as opposed to the 338 that's projected for 2015. So it brings it more in line with what the actual energy costs should be based on what we're seeing.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think that the numbers that we had in there make sense. Those were also using the government figures that we had developed. I think what happened when this was put together is, and I don't know whether Mr. Hope will own up to this or not, but I think he left some numbers in there.
Yeah, I left some descriptions in there, and I apologize for the confusion, and I've been made to learn in our conversations this year that I will fix those in the future. That is completely my fault.
Well, I think it's good to have the descriptions, but then you can compare usage, but and then you can compare the cost. I mean, it should be a pretty straight calculation. How much did you use versus how much is it gonna cost?
Yeah, the 16,000 gallons was a reasonable number, correct?
Yeah, the 16,000 that's a pretty consistent number.
And
It's amazing that we've done that
we don't
much.
pay the state tax, federal state tax?
Right.
State tax.
State.
State tax, so,
Federal, we have
So
to.
290 is still 315.
I'm sorry?
So even if you budget 290, it's still a 315 a dollar. a gallon.
290 less the state tax, which is 20.
Right, but I'm budgeting at 290, so.
I know, I
yeah.
understand that.
So it'd be like a $315 per gallon.
Because I looked at it originally at 280,
Right.
okay? And that came out to $46,000, and we only reduced it to 53, so I think there's still room in there
No.
from what you proposed.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to the full-fledged number because there is some unknowns.
Yeah.
There is some contingency in there, but at the same time, it should be more realistic as to what
Yeah.
we expect to spend.
I agree.
So the reduction proposed is $10,153. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of reducing 4194.10, general governmental buildings, by $10,153 for a new line total of $94,779, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Any abstain? All right, so it passes 630.
Now, you had said on this motion, is it okay to ask a question? That you had gotten something from Bill on this?
No, I actually went to the Department of Energy and the forecast that they published at the end of November for next year's expected cost.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't get that, I was just
No, I
wondering
did
about.
my own research.
I
And
used
it's
your
down
number.
again,
Yeah.
by the
but-
way,
I
yeah.
got your numbers.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I sent the numbers out to everybody.
gonna
Those are the
keep
latest
dropping
numbers I
for a
have.
little bit, but.
Exactly, so even if it goes up again in the summer, there'll still be some cushion that you picked up in the winter months.
All right, the new bottom line is $5,234,634, if I'm correct.
Similarly, 4311, the road agent,
11 road agent.
propane, they have budgeted, I'd like to make a reduction of $608.
Reduction of, what was that?
608. I do
600.
not know the bottom lines, I'm just, my reduction.
All right, $608.
So it was at 5,000, you're trying to get it to,
All right,
was
is
your-
there, is there a second
second.
on, okay,
Yeah.
it's been made and seconded, okay, discussion?
Is it at 5,000 right now?
it was, yeah, we had cut it once before, to 5,000. And what is your number?
No, I didn't have the updated.
So it'd be 608 less than that, so.
$4,398.
Actually, I'm comfortable with 5,000 per cost gallon, I'm actually comfortable with that, so who seconded it? I would withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw it.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn for road agent reduction. So So again, the bottom line stands at $5,244,787.
Question.
No.
5,234,634.
234.
You had said it right
Yep,
before.
I said it right before.
So then for 4312 road maintenance, can you cut that into the 635 line item of vehicle fuel?
Road maintenance, we do not have any reductions.
No, that's still 13,000.
All right, so I'd like to make a reduction of that one of $736 for vehicle fuel. Same.
What line are we,
4312.10.
635.
Find it, 4312.10. And you are looking to reduce,
Vehicle fuel by $736.
Now, okay.
a reduction of $736 to vehicle fuel, which is line 635.
Yep.
No, we put his diesel.
I'm sorry, was there a second?
Separately.
Second.
Okay.
Hang on there. And it's the
Sorry.
same, it's a similar principle, it's budgeted at 373, 350 is what I used in the other calculations as a more appropriate number for next year. And that,
So what's your number?
would be 13,000,
It'd be 12,264,
12 to,
12,264,
down from 13,000?
down from 13,000.
unless you want to go bigger, though,
It's good.
I'm open to it.
No, that's good.
And that's just cost,
It's-
cost-wise and projections.
Again, with the projections, it's the same gallon, price per gallon used in the previous one, it's just applying them. I went throughout the budget and tried to reconcile them so they're all the same.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of 4312.10, road maintenance, a reduction of $736. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
opposed?
And any abstain? So it passes 630.
Do we have any conflicts in here?
Any what?
Conflicts with this account? No?
Levity again.
It's not levity.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
With fuel?
What's the question?
Are there any conflicts?
I'm sorry?
You mean, because I plow? I mean, we cut the fuel costs based on, I know how much equipment we have, 3 plow trucks, loaders, pickups. I think that's why I asked, it's just based on fuel cost.
Okay.
All right, so,
Using your eraser open?
I know, I forgot my calculator today.
5,233,898.
5,233,898.
898.
Ain't no way to go.
All right. Any further discussion on the bottom line of 5,233,898?
4321 solid waste administration, line 636 vehicle fuel.
Solid waste administration, 4321.
Reduction of $354.
I know, we have no idea, Bill.
Which line was it, Fran?
636.
What's the account again?
4321, solid waste administration, line 636, diesel fuel. And not used it, and I'd like to reduce that $354.
I'll find it.
And
You
again,
know what, I'm gonna look at Ray's.
what account?
Yeah, right there.
It's line 636,
Line?
diesel fuel, and 4321.
636? Okay.
Solid waste administration.
Okay, and what was the amount reduction again?
354.
$354. Is there a second?
Second?
And it's, again, it was budgeted at 409, 350 is the more realistic number for next year. So the difference would be 354.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of 4321.10, solid waste administration, line 636, fuel, a reduction of $354, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So that passes 630.
I have a question on 4520 Parks and Recreation, line 411, propane gas. Did you cut that one out? You cut that one,
What's the new bottom line?
No, we did not.
The new bottom line, Frank, is 5,233,544.
Thanks.
Propane gas was not touched.
So I would reduce that to, I would like to make a reduction of that line item of $1,066.
Second.
I understand that Mr. Hoke is going to be saying that his notes may not be inaccurate, but that's what I went with. Seems, again, high relative to what's forecasted for next year. But consistency, it's $1.69 per gallon, 4,100 gallons. The difference between what was actually calculated, which was $1.95, is the 1,066.
So it's 411 propane, and your reduction is what again?
$1,066. So it's more than flatlining it, but it's a more accurate projection for next year.
All right. Any further discussion?
You need some time?
Hearing none, all those in favor of 4520.10 Parks and Recs, line 411 propane, a reduction of $1,066, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Any abstain? Motion passes 630.
The new bottom line is 5,232,478. 5,232,478.
Any further discussion on the bottom line of $5,232,478? Hearing none. All those in favor of the bottom line for the town budget, $5,232,478, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 800. 9-0. Stuck on the line. All right, that completes the bottom line of the town budget, and next we move on to warrant articles.
I don't.
Just a question on it kind of blends between budgets and then going into Article 5 here on the award article.
Mm-hmm.
The default budget, could you confirm what that number is? Is it the 5,120,000 as stated in the warrant article, or is it
Not
5,118,000 as stated on the summary worksheet?
Hold on a second.
Thank you.
It's one of those things that changes.
I know it.
Yeah, and it is the selectmen's prerogative to change it up until the end of January, so.
So it's not, no matter what we vote for Article 5, it still could change again?
Right, I mean, right now, I have 5,129,69.
Okay. Thank you.
129,
120,969,
okay, thanks.
so.
So what information are we waiting for? What would prompt it to change? Because aren't all the contracts signed and, same level of appropriation, so what could possibly change?
Any number of things. You get information in, I make mistakes. I go put everything on the form and say, whoops, I didn't add $500 there. So there's any number of those sort of things. You are correct that the majority of the numbers are in. So you should not see a wildly different change there. The last change I made is, I think when I got final health numbers in, I plugged the real number in instead of my estimate number. So. Okay.
All right. So, I mean, I think what we do is we just voted our final
Yep.
number. So, do we need to approve Article 5 because?
Yeah, because they need an account.
Okay. All right, so I assume there's not going to be any major discussion, but the Article 5 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations, special warrant articles, and other appropriations voted separately. The amounts set forth in the budget posted with the warrant are as amended by the vote of the first session. The purposes set forth therein totaling $5,232,478. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $5,120,469, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Litchfield or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10 and 16, to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. Is there a motion to, we have to vote to recommend. Is there a motion to recommend this warrant article?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending Article 5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? So it passes 9-0-0. All right, Article 6, road improvement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of road pavement improvement projects. It is anticipated that these funds will be used towards the cost of repairs to Pinecrest Road and Blue Jay Way, as well as other roads as necessary. And the estimated 2015 tax impact rate is 24 cents. Is there a motion to recommend or not recommend?
So moved.
To recommend?
Yeah.
A motion to recommend, is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
This is similar to what we had in place this current year, correct?
That's correct.
And there's still the highway roadblock grant and included in the budget.
In the operating budget, yeah, this is on top of that.
If the state continues to provide it, yeah.
Except it's more than they asked for last year.
It
For
is.
this year.
Not terribly much, 25 grand, right?
More than.
It'd be nice to have one.
You do have a
No,
plan.
Yep,
I
yes,
thought,
I
didn't we
know.
vote 179?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we vote 179 last year?
Whatever the block grant money was, yeah.
I thought it was 179, that's
Yeah,
why.
and this is more.
Yeah, yes, this
Oh,
is
I'm
more.
saying.
Yeah, you are correct, it is more.
I thought you said it was
The
more than
plan was
25.
presented,
When we talked about articles, a plan was presented.
Yeah.
So, and this had an overwhelming support by the voters last year, so.
Maintaining the roads is a necessity. Obviously, the more money means we could do more. Now, you know, what roads they get, it goes to the most critical needs. I mean, obviously, this, in my opinion, is a necessity, and, look, the voters could clearly say no, but
Right.
I'm gonna recommend, yeah, throw the money in there, we'll add it to the rest, and we'll get more done.
And just for clarification, when I say a plan, I mean 200,000 this year, 200,000 next year, to get us to 10 years and then we're done, or whatever, and then it becomes.
you're never done.
Never done
No,
that.
I understand
Yeah, yeah.
that, but I'd like to say, you know, yeah, after 10 years, if we spend 200 grand for 10 years, we've covered all the roads.
Nope.
I don't,
Not gonna happen.
every.
200 grand wouldn't even come close.
Nope.
Well, it's
Nowhere near.
but what I'm saying is, there's no idea as to where we are along hitting all the roads and just,
I think there is a report in the town for
There-
that.
We not only have a report, we have a software package that
Yes.
has all the
Yeah.
roads in it.
that's
That-
readily accessible.
The roads are all rated by 1 through 10, I believe, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm
Like that?
glad to answer questions, but only one at a time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's have one conversation on
So,
it.
what was your question, Carol?
I just would like, for me personally, I don't know how anybody else in the town feels, but just what is the anticipated expense over the next however many years it takes to get us up to where we should be, where we address all of the major roads? Are we looking at a 20-year plan of $200,000 a year? Are we looking at a 50-year plan? Like, for me, it's hard to wrap my head around, okay, yeah, we're putting more money on it, but where are we in the progress forward? How much
We-
closer are we to addressing all of the critical needs.
We maintain 77 miles of road. 16.71 miles are in need of repair, that's 26%. 61% of our roads are in good condition, 13% are in fair condition, 26 are in poor condition. Bringing all of the poor roads to good condition had a current cost, when we fully priced it, of $4.6 million.
Okay.
Okay, so the $375,000 a year, which is block grant plus this 200, you can see we're 10, 15 years plus, and that assumes nothing else slips.
And at that point, what'll happen is some of the
Right.
fair condition roads drop down to the poor, and they've got to be,
Right. So it is a continual uphill battle for us. I mean, but that's sort of the order of magnitude that we have. So, you know, I'd like to ask you for $400,000 because I know what the costs are and I know what the short-term plan that Jack is looking at. But, you know, the reality is we can only realistically support so much each year.
No, and I think it's great that somebody has that information. I just think that information should be more prominently displayed somewhere. That we're making progress. We're knocking 26% down to 22%.
That's
Is
from
it
the
on the
payment management plan.
website? Is it on the town website? I think it is, isn't it?
It had been, I'm not sure if current form is. You'll see it shortly. It will be in our slides for deliberative session.
Okay.
Those numbers are from my slide, so, on that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion to recommend warrant Article 6. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? So the motion passes 9-0-0. Fire Department air pats, which is Article 7. To see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $163,000 for the purchase of replacement breathing apparatus equipment to replace apparatus scheduled to be out of service in 2015. It is the intention of the fire department to seek grant funding for this replacement and to fund this appropriation fully with the grant. If the grant is not received, this appropriation is to be funded by authorizing the withdrawal of that amount from the unexpended fund balance as of December 31st, 2014. This would have a net cost to 2015 general taxation of $0. Is there a motion to?
I'll make a motion to recommend.
There's a motion to recommend. Is there a second?
Second.
Been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Is the unexpended fund balance from 2014 applied to the tax rate for 2015?
No.
No.
It is a.
Different than the school.
Yeah, in our case, the certain amount sits there. We have a certain amount that is retained that by the selectmen or by sort of policy recommendation. It doesn't automatically sweep. We can elect to use a certain amount.
What's the fund balance now?
About 1.4 million, which is about right where it's supposed to be. It's at the bottom end of that recommendation.
It's part of that cash flow?
Yeah.
Keep the town moving, because you get ups and downs on revenue, so they need a cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
we've gotten very close, probably back in 2008,
Yeah.
to having to go to
Yeah.
TAN.
But typically, you guys are able to take maybe 200,000 or 300,000 at the most out of fund balance each year.
Yeah, we try to buy it down. I mean, we're at the lower end of that recommended bracket. If this were to come out of fund balance, we would slip below that bottom recommended bracket.
When you just mail a check without a stamp and it comes back, you buy some time. That was my shot at levity. Did it work? No?
Okay.
Okay, I
They
tried.
call that floating, and it's against the law. by the way.
Any further discussion on warrant Article 7? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending warrant Article 7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes 9-0-0. Article 8, Fire Department Utility Vehicle, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 for the replacement of the utility vehicle used by the fire department. Estimated 2015 tax rate impact 2 cents. Is there a motion to recommend?
I'll move to recommend.
A motion to recommend Article 8. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes. Just point of clarification, this is the piece of equipment that we viewed at the fire station during our town tour that didn't have an adequate sized, I believe, water holding tank?
That's correct.
I got it.
It's not the, and at the selectmen meeting, if you look at the tapes, you'll see me confused because people refer to it as a forestry vehicle, and the forestry vehicle is the big red behemoth.
Right.
That is not it. It's the F3.
350.
450, I forget the number.
It's a 350, and they need a
And
450.
the bottom line is, if you fill the tank with water,
Can't move the truck.
it'll just keep going.
Will you trade in the old truck? Is that what the plan is?
The plan is to take the chassis, the tank off of the current truck, put it on an appropriate size new truck that can hold a full tank. And then we would probably retain the existing truck as a utility vehicle. We got rid of a utility vehicle in the fire department this year, and didn't replace it, so we would probably retain the remainder of that vehicle. It's mainly used for taking additional small materials to site and also sending people to training with their gear. It's not optimal for that
No, not
situation.
optimal at all.
It's not optimal for it, but it's a vehicle. That's the issue we have.
How old is that vehicle? The one that we currently have, that's,
It's like
I want to say 6 to 8 years. I don't have that right
I think it
in
was
front of me
8.
here.
I think we asked that when we toured.
don't remember.
I think it was 8. Low mileage, but it's just, it's in town.
which means there's gonna be a lot of maintenance on that old one.
Yes.
Guzzler.
All right, any further discussion on Article 8?
It's 2003.
Thank you.
That was 11 years. If there's no further discussion on warrant Article 8, all those in favor of recommending warrant Article 8, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And any abstain? So that is, it passes 7-0. Warrant Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $70,000 to reclaim and resurface the parking lot of the municipal lot serving the Old Town Hall and Fire Station. Estimated 2015 tax rate impact is 8 cents. Is there a motion to recommend?
Move to recommend.
Motion to recommend, is there a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded, any further discussion?
I apologize, I wasn't here when we went through all the warrant articles. It's one of the meetings that I missed. What was the intention of this article? Let me clarify. Why this year is this important?
Originally, well, it's important because the parking lot at the fire station is totally broken up and fractured. I think the Budget Committee was provided pictures, if I remember correctly, of the parking lot, so you can see that. And the problem we have is even just plowing the parking lot is very difficult because the plow skips over the, the grooves where the trucks back in and out and everything else. The problem we have also is there are water pools in front of the doors, and you end up creating ice there on days like this. So what this will do is originally the selectmen had, I think, what was the number, 40,000?
40,000.
Had originally budgeted 40,000, and an individual went down there, one of the selectmen, and took a look at that and reviewed that with the road agent. And the bottom line on it is the 40,000, when it was proposed, was going to be just what's called an overlay. And we would be right back to where we are again today probably in another 4 or 5 years, because the cracking of the pavement underneath would come right through the overlay, and you'd be back to where you are. So this 70,000, we felt would make better sense, because it was a total reclamation. In other words, you dig out the hot top, you fix the subsoils, you regrade it, you do a new base coat of hot top. It also includes the installation of a drain in front of the doors that allows that pooling water, as it exists now, to be shunted to the drain that's on the right side of the building as you face it. So we thought that this was the best way. Originally, we were also going to take a look at doing the recycling center area in front of where people pull up to drop that stuff, but because our feeling was that we could go, at least the road agent felt that we could go for at least another year without doing anything in the recycling center, and because this was going to be more expensive, we decided let's just leave it at this.
I agree that parking lot is beyond repair at this stage, and I agree you can't just overlay it, you do need to reclaim it. This is in worse shape than the GMS parking lot was a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm not debating the condition, I'm just, the thing I'm stuck on, perhaps you can help me understand the thought from the governing body. We're also contemplating, at some point in the relatively near future, the need for a new fire station, right? That will house new apparatus of some sort, probably in the next, 5 years, maybe? Whatever that number,
Maybe.
whatever that number is, right? So I'm trying to justify the need now when in probably a few short years, it will all be dug up again.
You know, what do they say, great minds think alike, I guess, but, and I'm not saying that I agree with you, because all I'm saying is, yeah, I was wondering that, the same thoughts occurred to me, and when I went through it in my mind, and when we went through it as a board, really, I think what we come down to is this, that it's going to be at least 3 to 5 years before we have any hope of bringing forward a new fire station. Secondarily,
He's right.
Help in the chair.
Sorry.
we were shoes untied or something?
All of a sudden they got the red warning, your battery's dying. I realized I wasn't plugged in.
Oh, that hurts.
Where was it? So it's going to be at least 3 to 5 years, I think, before we would come forward with any type of consideration of a fire station. Secondarily, every time we've talked about a new fire station, every time, whether we located it here, I think there was discussions at one point of putting it on the school property, then there was discussions of moving it towards the entrance to Dara Park, then there was discussions of moving it right next to Town Hall, creating a safety complex. Everybody always raised the issue of, we can't close down the existing fire station because it's serving critical response needs and everything else. So we felt that at the end of the day, we got to do something with the parking lot, because it's, as has been said, it's totally broken up. And now's the time to do it.
How old is that parking lot?
4 years old,
Many different-
probably.
Don't know, there's, if you
There's
go down
patches
there
on
and look,
top.
there's patches everywhere
So
on
it's
it.
clearly not.
I don't remember it being done,
So you just have
24
now
years.
local-
I have no knowledge of when it was done.
It's all patches, I don't even think there's.
Well, I remember it being a little
Yeah,
uneven.
I just want to bring up, just because that's a great thought, and I know you weren't here during the GMS days where maintenance, a lot of important maintenance items were pushed off because we're going to be getting a new elementary school, is the thought. Right, so now we're talking, this is going to be a multi-million-dollar, fire station that requires a supermajority vote. Look, it might happen in a year, might happen 10 years, might never happen, I don't know. But the point is, yeah, this is really needed, and I've seen it, and there's going to be a catastrophic failure at some point where the plow's going to go up and a big hunk's going to come out. So my opinion, this is really needed right now.
Did anybody ever look this, the only thing I'm worried about is my recollection, for whatever reason, I asked a couple of people, is that part of the septic system or the septic tanks are underneath that parking lot.
On the right-hand side.
That is correct, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's on.
we're aware, everyone's aware of where, that they're there and there are issues there.
And we also didn't we pipe in Pennachuck to the fire station
Yeah.
2 years ago.
recently?
Right, but
Yeah.
that's I think, part of the cuts that you see in the
Yeah.
parking lot that exist today.
And that was happy stance that the development went in behind that, and the water came this far, so.
There was
Fire
there was
department
also
benefit.
propane that was a tank that's deposited actually at the very back, beyond the turn behind the building. It's back there, and lines are run underground to feed the emergency generator. So those lines were also cut through the parking, or the turnaround road in the back area there.
All right, so warrant Article 9, all paving, motion to recommend. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending warrant Article 9 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? 9-0-0 passes. Warrant Article 10, Public Works Expendable Fund Deposit. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,970 for deposit into the Public Works Expendable Trust Fund previously established. Said sum represents the amount withdrawn in 2014 for replacing of a baler at the solid waste facility. Estimated 2015 tax impact, 2 cents.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Motion to recommend, is there a second?
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
How much is in it now?
How much is in there now?
I think it was, what, 25,000?
Yeah, it was about 7,000, because I think we started it at 20,000, we took
20,000.
13 out, so obviously there's a little bit of interest, but
Good enough.
Any further discussion?
So was it 7,000 or?
7,000 is the approximate balance still
Okay.
in that fund.
Not right now. No further discussion. All those in favor of recommending warrant Article 10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes 9-0-0. Warrant Article 11, Highway Paint Striping Machine. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,500 for purchase of a paint striping unit for the Highway Department for the purpose of painting stop bars, roadway wording, and parking lots. Estimated tax impact rate, 1 cent. A motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
A motion to recommend, is there a second?
Second.
Been made and seconded, further discussion?
Curiosity, why is this a separate warrant article? I mean, you buy equipment.
Because it was a quick guess on our part that the Budget Committee wouldn't allow it in the budget, and they'd wanted us for an article.
I mean,
You want to put it in the budget, I'll go back to
the.
the budget and add $12,000, I can try that again, or whatever the
You only
number is.
accept
7,500, yeah.
Just curious.
12,000.
Or add 12,000 anyways.
If I might, I'd like to offer my input on this one. Okay. This is also, one of the few things that I know a lot about, because I also do this kind of work. I don't work for the town. I appreciate that this going to warrant, because I think it is a warrant as opposed to being in the budget, because it was about to go, the machine was about to be purchased months ago, and it was Mr. Byron at that point that recommended it doesn't, and it goes, he specifically said, let's vet it through the Budget Committee. So I appreciate that, because it's a change of the way we're doing things now, because this is not a replacement of a machine. This line striper and the stencils is about $7,500. The proposal is to bring it in-house. Right now, we subcontract that service out to a professional private line striping company, who also, if we did buy this machine, we would still be using that or a different line striping company to do the balance of the lines. This is just for parking lots, stop bars, things of that nature. So we will still have to subcontract striping. This is now the town, the government, doing something that we are currently having a private, professional, specialized company do. The math, in my opinion, doesn't work. Right now, the cost of this service is $5,600 a year is what we're paying, and that's the number I got from the Board of Selectmen. That includes, obviously, the paint, all the labor for that company, all the payroll add-ons, workers' compensation, insurance, everything. One phone call, I guess Mr. Hoke or the road agent makes, and it's done. And this is something that only takes 2 days out of a year. All the bars and everything's painted in 2 days. The rationale that the Board of Selectmen gave us is that it's going to save us money if we take this service in-house, have the government do it. I disagree. The cost for this machine and the stencils is $7,500. Yes, it's a one-time cost. The stencils are plastic. They do last a number of years. They tend to dry out and get brittle and break. The machine does not last forever. It's an engine and a pump. You use it a lot, and it has a certain lifespan, and if you use it a little, believe it or not, it also lessens the life. Gaskets dry out. Engines are meant to be used, and so are pumps. So using it a lot or a little is about the same lifespan. The paint, the Board of Selectmen estimate about 100 gallons. That's about accurate for all the lines and stripes and stop bars, they said. However, they estimated the cost of $7 per gallon. That's no way near it. The cost for road striping paint is about $20 a gallon. A phone call to Sherwin-Williams or Franklin Paint, the two biggest line companies, can confirm that. So you can't even get a gallon of bare paint for your home for $7. So therefore, the paint will cost $2,000 a year. The labor was a little bit off, in my opinion. The Board of Selectmen estimates 2 workers for 2 8-hour days, which is 32 hours. I estimate about 48 to 50 hours to do that work, which is about $1,000. You got the miscellaneous maintenance, gaskets, O-rings, spray tips, a little over $100. So the total cost, if you depreciate, which I depreciated the machine over 5 years, is about $4,500 a year. That's a perceived savings of about $1,000 a year. I don't believe that taking on an additional task that we are currently not doing, that is currently subcontracted out, we're still going to need that same contractor to do work, makes sense. There are other indirect costs. That machine, you need, it's about 5 by 5 foot. You need a space to store it for 362 days a year, because we're only using it 2 days a year. You need additional space to store all the stencils, which need to be laid down about another 5 by 5 feet. Other variable costs, we need a truck and a trailer to tow it around. I know we have it, but you got to calculate the cost of that into there. There's trial and error in the description. I know it might have been a mistake. It says the Board of Selectmen would choose to, spray the paint a little thicker, extend the life. You can't do that. The thicker you spray it, it would chip up. You need to go thin. You need to do this annually. Maybe you can get off every other year. There's other issues. It is very easy to spray once you set the machine up, which takes an hour or so, and you learn how to clean it, and any issues when the tips clog up, all you got to do is walk behind it and push it. It does work. But remember, this is something 2 days out of a year. I cannot see investing in an engine, machine, pump, sprayers, storage for something for 2 days out of the year. The $5,600 a year we spend, I think, is money well spent. We don't have to maintain machines. Don't have to have the labor, hire the labor or the additional labor to tote it around and do the work, and anything that might pop up, or if this thing is stored in the back of the highway garage, somebody bangs into it, they are temperamental machines. The money's in the budget right now for this, to do the work. I don't believe $7,500 is a good idea to spend, so I'm not going to recommend this.
You said you could save, with your estimate,
About $1,000 a year.
$1,000 a year. So you don't think saving $1,000 for the taxpayers?
No, I do not think getting into a new business.
But you're saving $1,000 a year.
What about insurance?
But I think in 7 years, that machine is gonna have, probably be into that maintenance mode where you're going backwards, so I think you're
That
right.
machine is always in the maintenance mode, quite honestly, but
paint.
for
It dries.
$1,000 a year, I mean, look, I know you might seem odd that I'm saying this, but out of a $5 million
Well, I am, because
budget,
we sit here and argue
I don't think-
$200, but
you see,
saving $1,000.
if they came to me and says, something we're already doing, or if we could save $1,000 a year at a police budget, because they're providing police services, a fire, I'd say all for it, cut it. But this is taking on a new business, a whole new responsibility away from the private sector, turning it into a government job. So first you have to believe, philosophical, does government, can they do things better and cheaper than the private sector? I don't even want to argue that here now. You guys can make those decisions on your own. But no, to buy this machine, to save $1,000 a year is not worth it, because right now, all the liability is one phone call, something goes wrong, come back and fix it, and they could always go out for additional bids and maybe even cut that cost back. But things don't get cheaper when government takes on responsibilities that the private sector does.
I also
You're-
have a concern of insurance. I mean, we have guys then walking in the streets. What if somebody gets hit?
They're gonna be out on the
Yeah,
street.
but
They're out
they're
on the street anyway.
contracted. That's somebody, that's a liability, insurance issue that belongs to that contract.
But we still provide traffic control for those
But
crews.
what I'm saying is though, the insurance of that worker.
And they're not even
belongs to
doing the streets, they're talking about
contractor.
parking lots.
No, they do the stop
But-
bars and
But even
stuff.
still, the insurance for those workers belongs to the contractor you're buying the services from. If it's our worker who gets injured, then it puts the town at risk.
There's no different risk than highway department people doing any other work, police department.
Yeah.
We're insured for doing that kind of work, period. If they
Less
stop and
safer
pick
than a
up a
chainsaw.
branch,
Right.
you
Safer
know,
than a
yeah,
chainsaw.
I'd rather give them, just your 5,600 sort of lowballs the number. Yes, that's what we spent this year. We also didn't do everything that needs to be done. That was the core of Albuquerque. We have 200, outside of Albuquerque, we have another 220 stop bars, 36 crosswalks, and 26 stop words. So, you know, we will spend more than $5,600. Part of it is how do you gauge how much you do each year? And that's what the road agent's been doing. You say the money's in the budget, the money's not in the budget. If I accept even the $5,600, and then I take what it costs us if we actually did all the double yellows and single white fog lines that we would still contract for, which we're not gonna do with this machine.
Oh,
That's
okay.
still retained contract. Oh, God, no, we're not delusional. To do all those each year, that's $12,000. Okay, so that's $12,000. $6,000 for doing the rest of the contract. Do you remember how much you budgeted for highway striping?
Not exactly, I could look at it.
$10,000. $10,000. So you can't say the money's there. The money's not there. The money is there to stretch, the road agent stretches what he can for what has to be contracted, and part of this came back, hey, we can do some more of it in-house.
Kudos for trying. I mean, I think it's great that you guys are trying to find ways to save money, and I appreciate that. I applaud it. Just the return on investment of time and stuff,
Look, it's even if it was something existing, I would say, okay, save $1,000. This is taking on a whole new business. It's the government now getting into the striping business. And I know I'm using the word government, but it's a town government. It's government. You're taking on another business. The government is in the police business, you're in the sanitation business, you're in the fire business. I don't believe the government should be in the striping business. I believe the government, it's suited well when you pick up and you say, you're doing the fog lines, also do X amount, here's my budget, get as much done as you can. And you can go off a bid for 3 different places. I think it's working in a $5 million budget. Keep it on tape. I'd rather not save that $1,000.
The government is in the road business, and the road business includes the striping, the crossbars, the stops, all of that
You
type of
could
stuff.
extend it to that.
Please let me finish. I wasn't taking a breath then either, so just to clarify. We're in the road business. We take care of the roads, and part of taking care of the roads includes signage and information placed on the roads so that the people who are driving our roads have the ability to know what's coming up, whether it's a turn, a stop bar, or whatever the case may be. And whether we contract that out or do it in-house, it's part of the government's function.
I agree. Right. I just want to say, I will, whether this is, you know, I'm the only one or not, I would look forward to speaking to the people at Deliberative and giving my take on it from somebody that knows this business and believes what the government should be doing in-house and subcontracting. So I would look forward to that conversation directly with the voters. But I don't think this should be in the budget,
It sounds like there was a cost analysis now. Or some sort.
There was a request for the Budget Committee for a cost analysis. Mr. Hook pulled that together, and that was provided to the Budget Committee.
I've never seen it. But that's-
Well, I don't know whether you've
I
seen
don't
it or
know.
not. I can tell you that it was sent to the Budget Committee, and I believe it was at the request of Mr. Pascucci.
Yeah, we all got it.
And it did go out, and
Well,
basically,
I didn't get it.
That
Look,
was what-
just a question. Did that include, did you count the labor associated with this work?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where the estimate, our best estimate was we'd call it 2 men for 2 8-hour
You
days.
didn't assume the labor was free?
No. I mean, they're doing that work instead of other work.
For me, it's a lot simpler. Is this something that can wait a year? And is this something that has to be done this year because of some pressing issue? I think with all the things in the budget, this is something that can wait a year.
I actually checking the paint prices, some of them, couple other places that he recommended. The cheapest we can find paint, that I can find it right now, is $22 a gallon. That's from Global Industrial, who's a very, that's in 5-gallon pails. So I think the estimate on what it costs is flawed. You also have to add to that glass beads, right? So don't you put glass beads in the paint so that they're reflective?
They do, yeah.
That's
And that's
thermal.
another added cost, right?
That is,
That's
yeah.
on
I mean, that's inexpensive, it's reflective bead.
But what you-
If it's reflective, or if you're buying it
Yeah.
from Franklin, it'll be mixed in, so.
Yeah.
Just, it was forwarded to the budget committee on 12/12.
What was?
The information about the road painting sprayer article was forwarded to the budget committee on 12/12, December 12th.
He never saw it. I never saw it.
I don't know why, I'm looking at it right here, budget committee.
Oh, I'm not denying it.
Michelle, that's who it was forwarded to, it's right here.
Yeah. I usually read those things.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending warrant article 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Aye. It sounds like it failed 3-6-0. Let's see, 12, intersection of Albuquerque, intersection Albuquerque Ave extension. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $160,000 for planning, design, engineering, and permitting for extending Albuquerque Ave to a new intersection along New Hampshire Route 102. This is the result of the approval of 2014 Article 19 for directing the Board of Selectmen to bring forward an article to study alternatives and potential costs for a controlled intersection allowing access to Route 102. Tax impact is 19 cents. Is there a motion to recommend?
Move to recommend.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
What's the estimate on what the cost will be on this?
I think we went over that at the last meeting. I don't have it in front of me.
1.5 to 1.8 million.
That's what I recall. too.
Does that include property acquisition?
No.
So it actually more than
If it required property acquisition,
Yeah, I think it does.
It would.
I think it did.
it, depending on how it's laid out, it may not.
We-
Again, that's why you do the front end of this, to get a real number on the back end, so.
Look, I think that number you just mentioned should probably be in there also, so people know what they're getting into, but I'm still going to vote to not recommend that one.
I don't think I put a number.
There was no number, and last year warrant article 19, to see if the town will direct the Board of Selectmen to bring to the 2015 annual meeting an article to study alternatives and potential costs for a controlled intersection allowing access to Route 102. Now, I know what I thought was the intersection that already exists, working
Page
with
of
either
Route.
Hudson or the state or whatever to get some control, a stoplight or whatever at the intersection that exists. I did not read that as,
That's what we talked
now we're
about.
gonna create a new intersection in town.
It says Albuquerque Avenue to a new intersection along the
Put it on the three.
This is what this one says.
Right. And last year said a controlled intersection, we couldn't very well be asking the town of Litchfield to be voting to spend money on the town of Hudson intersection.
So-
That's why we had to write what we wrote last year, saying, let's look at
At
the
the
variety of
time,
options.
at the time that last year's warrant article came forward, there were two options. One option was to look at what it would cost and feasibility to use the existing intersection and signalize it. Okay? The other option would be what you see here, which would be to create a new intersection. The problem is, the intersection you're talking about resides in the town of Hudson. Hudson will not put up any money to do that. That's point number one. Point number two, so what you'd be doing effectively is asking the citizens of Litchfield to to raise and appropriate money to signalize an intersection in Hudson.
We turn the water off? How's that work?
And I don't think that that's going to work. Number two, the state of New Hampshire, at the request of the state reps, took a look at that intersection, and they say that that intersection's fine, there's not a problem with it.
My only point was, when I read last year's warrant article, I did not interpret that to mean we were going to plan and design a brand-new intersection. However, if I misunderstood that, now reading what before us is the alternative that was researched, that has an impact on me. This is not what I expected, and again, I'm back to, this isn't the year for it.
And by the way, I to give credit to the selectmen, they did exactly what they were asked, right, in the warrant? They did it, and they presented this warrant, so seeing this now, I'm saying, no way, from my point of view.
But didn't the, what was the original article say that they were going to present to us?
An article to study alternatives, potential costs for a controlled intersection allowing access to 102. So we will be bringing an article
You're
to
not providing
study
potential cost.
and potential cost. Yeah, the cost of the study is $160,000.
No, that's not what the article said.
So is it,
The potential cost is the total cost.
Yeah, the article is to be studying the alternatives and the potential cost, not to be providing the potential cost.
Okay. It's academic anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna go and get soil samples and map
No,
out
they're
the
not.
area. Oh, well,
I mean, is it
I know what you're saying,
impossible?
but that's what they're proposing, it
Is
takes
it
3 to
ill-
5 years to put a plan like
is
that
it
together.
impossible for us to put lights at that intersection, or is it just we don't think Hudson wants us
It's
to do it?
complicated.
Actually, I'm not even sure that the town of Litchfield could do it. It sits in, as he said, in the town of Hudson,
Right.
and it's a state road. So,
And there's
to
major
your-
work that has to happen because of the geometry of that intersection, the property width and the like. That is part of the reason why we need to look at other alternatives.
Okay. I mean,
If you're going to
that's-
do something about it.
Right, if it's unfeasible, it's one thing, but I would still think it would come in at less than whatever 2.5, 3 million you're looking at.
Well, we don't know what that cost is.
I just said 1.5 to 1.8.
Which still does not include
property acquisition,
Which may not be needed.
because of the state
But
stuff.
it may be, so you can put a 1 million to 10 million, it's a large
Well,
number.
But-
this article, let's stick with this
Yeah.
article, which is to appropriate $160,000 for planning, design, engineering, and permitting.
I'm ready to vote.
Yep.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending Article 12, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh,
Any abstain? So that one fails 2-7-0.
two people think that's a good idea.
Article 13, Human Services Agencies, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,250 to support the requests of human service agencies, including Big Brothers Big Sisters, Home Health and Hospice Care, St. Joseph's Community Services, which is Meals on Wheels, Bridges, and Community Council of Nashua. Is there a motion to recommend?
I recommend.
Second.
What exactly are we voting on with
So,
this?
yeah, it
in
was,
front of the people.
it was raised and seconded. My question is, when we saw this, well, a month ago now,
It was
it was
21.
23,935, which represented all the requests, all the current requests. How did we come up with this different number?
We had overstated a request. So there was an assumption made based on information provided that was based on cost of services provided rather than the agency's actual request. So the 11,250 reflects the current, or the request for 2015 for the agencies that the town has consistently supported in the past. So that's 500 hours to Big Brothers and Big Sisters, 6,500 hours to Home Health and Hospice, 1,950 hours to St. Joseph's Community Services, 300 hours to Bridges, 2,000 hours to Community Council of Nashua. And those are all itemized in your budget on that health agency sheet.
What did we do this year?
We stayed the same as we've done for the past 4 or 5 years. We allocated 4,952. That number has been, it had been in the budget for a couple of years. We moved it, I think it's been 2 years on a warrant article at that, and it hasn't been adjusted for any agency requests.
Typically, you would take the agency requests and you would say, well, we're not going to do the whole thing and we'll give something else.
That's correct.
In this case, you're saying whatever you ask, we're going to give.
Yeah, the selectmen's take when
I just
we
wanna
had, right,
understand.
when we had the question is the selectmen said, hey, we haven't adjusted this we haven't adjusted the number at all in several years.
But the take on the selectmen is that we would like to see the people say what they want to give, and if,
Well, here's my confusion is, when we went over this, when we're going line by line, it was all of the agencies that you had requests from, which included a couple that, it's been a while. Lamprey Healthcare, actually court-appointed special advocates, that's in the police budget.
No, that one's not.
That was not, I would say, Court Advocate, Special Advocates, and American Red Cross. So I'm a little confused now, that's why I'm confused. I know there are more agencies, and if you really want to give people the option, how is the 11,000, one, I may say great to half of that, but not the other half. I may say some of these you left off I want to support. So how is this giving people a choice?
quite simply, they can take and change
Yep.
the amount, and
That's
they'll distribute the
really,
amount, or if they feel that they want to cut an amount out, for example, the American Red Cross, or, which I think you're a member of, right?
Yep.
Okay. Then they can cut it out, and we'll adjust accordingly.
So deliberative, you're counting on people at deliberative session to get up and say, change this, add this, deduct this.
yeah. And that's actually something we presented last year. We actually presented the agency requests on a slide last year. The slide when we talked about this article. So I think it's, and the selectmen, as I said, opted to narrow the list to those agencies that have been supported in the past.
I need to ask a question so I understand how I'm voting, because we've had debates about this for years, and I agree that it should have been out of the proposed budget, which I believe this is where it should be. I agree that that one that we put back in the proposed budget, in the police budget, should be back in the budget. So I agree with all of that. I agree with where we are. Now I need to vote to recommend or not. I agree that these places should get money, because this is charity, and I believe people should give it, and this is a way of giving it through the government by voting yes on this, because they're also free to give on their own. But now, if I vote to recommend, what am I recommending? And if I vote to not recommend, what am I not recommending? I don't understand.
See,
So can you help me?
That's my confusion. Am I recommending Big Brothers and Bridges, but maybe not Home Health and Hospice and St. Joseph's? That's where I'm a little confused, is how even the voter, how are they going to determine?
Well, at the end of the day,
Sorry. Yep.
chill.
Sorry, yep.
At the end of the day, there was a discussion that the board had, and you can write this warrant article in multiple ways. You can write the warrant article as a lump sum, which is what you have today, or you can write that big brother, big sister, or whatever the case may be, gets X dollar amount, or what have you. The problem is that you're still right back to where you are, with people at deliberative having to make that decision, if they want to take and change those amounts. So the intention is during deliberative that there'll probably be a slide placed up here. Here's the amounts, here's how this 11,250 is constructed, and then people at deliberative have an opportunity to modify those various tick points.
So basically, by recommending this warrant article, we are recommending that it is financially reasonable for the town of Litchfield to support agencies that in turn support Litchfield community members. So it may not be that we support Home Health and Hospice, but we support the idea of some amount of money going towards agencies, health agencies that support Litchfield residents.
This is very specific, the agencies. that are involved.
Yeah, this specifically lists those agencies. It doesn't list the amount per agency. I mean, this is basically the article we did last year with just a different number slotted in.
We put
so.
4,900 and whatever dollars. last year. And the disappointment, at least I'll speak from my personal perspective that I had, is everybody just says, yeah, okay, fine. Well, let's get some feedback here, folks, you know?
Then I have another question to elaborate on that so I can understand. For those out there that look toward our recommendations, like if I'm looking toward a parking lot in the fire, I'm telling, through my recommendation, the voter, the taxpayer, that it's in their best interest if they come up through their taxes with that money needed to repave that, because it's good for the necessary, it's a maintenance item. So in this case, it's a good thing, but it might be a great thing for me, but if I'm telling Joe Jones in town, I think it's in your best interest to give money, why, I mean...
You can vote to abstain.
Well, you see, but, and that's what I'm getting at, because I'm trying to understand, and I might be digging too deep into this, but this is charity. Now, I might vote to abstain, because who am I to tell him that it's in your best interest to give money to this? I mean, feel free to vote for it, but I'm not going to sway your decision in one way or another. I'm not going to sway you into giving, or I'm not going to sway you into telling you shouldn't. That decision should be up to each and every person whether you should give. So which I know, and you'll probably say something because you said it earlier, we need to offer our opinions. And I'll be more than happy to stand up at deliberative, but I'm going to abstain to this one because I don't believe it's my job, because this isn't a necessity. We don't need this to maintain anything or run the town. I already gave my opinion on the one we put in the budget, because that I believe is a necessity. So I'm telling the voters that's important. I'll tell them morally this is important, but I don't believe financially it is for you, or you should do it.
At the end, I'm sorry.
I'm going to look to you to clarify this if I'm wrong, but I believe the agencies that they get a request from are agencies that actually provide a service to Litchfield residents, and they base their requests on the services they have provided to the community. So it is in the best interest. If we recommend this, we are saying it is in the best interest of the community, because these organizations support Litchfield residents in some way, shape, or form. And that's how they base their request. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
True, but also, these are charities, and they would do it anyway, even if they got no money through the town.
Well, you know, the American Heart Association is a charity, but they're not a charity that has provided a direct resource to the community of Litchfield in some way, and feel that they then may be entitled to compensation, voluntarily entitled to compensation. So it's a charity, but it's a charity that has a direct impact on the citizens.
I think you need to look at it as I'll call them regional charities. In other words, it's not like the Red, well, I don't want to use the Red Cross.
The American Heart Association.
The American Heart,
which
yeah,
is not-
exactly, or Diabetes Association, which covers the whole nation. It's not like that.
Right.
These are institutions that usually have a footprint somewhere in the local area, and they receive people from the various communities that surround that building or footprint or what have you, and they provide them a service. Or they travel to those communities, and like visiting nurses could be an example of that, where they travel to those communities and they provide the citizens of Litchfield, in this case, with those services. But one of the things I want to state is, at the end of the day, the vote, we're going to be discussing this anyways after deliberative.
You see, here's my point.
Because I guarantee you,
sorry.
it'll be changed.
Here's my point. I support this, and I will gladly stand up at deliberative and say, I think you all should do it, and we know some people vote, they don't care what we say. They vote with it. But then there are some people that say, okay, well, if Cindy, through her recommendation, thinks it's a good idea, I'm going to say yes, because Cindy thinks yes. Or Kerry thinks no, so I'm going to vote no. I'm saying, well, I don't want to unfairly sway voters in any direction. I agree that everybody should give through this warrant and individually. But for those that maybe can't afford it, I don't want to sway them saying, hey, 8 people, 9 people think we should give, and should I don't know. Maybe I'm digging too deep into it. I just might be, but
I
We-
had the
I'd be
feeling
shocked
that
if you were, Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from this one, and you know what, at deliberative, I will speak toward it, but I'm going to abstain from this one.
when
my own
when a
reason.
push comes to shove in March, people are gonna go in the voting booth, and they're gonna vote how they feel about this, regardless of what you or I are gonna be.
I agree, ultimately they
So
do.
let's vote, get a vote on this.
And just so you know, I am going to abstain because I have a role in the Red
Yeah,
Cross.
that's fine.
Even though it's not listed, it is one of our requesters, so.
Gonna be a lot of abstentions, I think, Cindy.
So, all those in favor of recommending warrant Article 13, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
How are you gonna count that?
Actually, it is recommended 306.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
recommended 306.
Yeah, it is. Because abstentions don't count, right,
Abstentions
yeah.
don't count.
Yeah, that's recommended.
All right. Warrant Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 for implementation of the first phase of a revised employee wage plan, as approved by the Board of Selectmen in 2013 for non-union employees. The wage schedule for these employees has not been adjusted since 2010. It is estimated that implementing this plan will take 3 years. Estimated tax, in 2015 tax rate impact is 3 cents. Is there a motion to recommend?
Absolutely, Madam Chair, with the expectation that this Budget Committee will support this going forward, full on,
Is there-
unanimously.
Is there a second?
I'll second, so I could say that, Frank, you really truly learned to pontificate since you went to the State House.
That was good.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
What's this all about?
Well, let's go through this again.
I just want to be clear on this one, that even if this is approved, voted in, it doesn't change the fact that the town and certain members can elect to unionize,
Absolutely.
right? So the debate, I think, that we had earlier about how this could potentially delay a unionization, I don't think is valid, right? Because it could still very well happen.
Right.
That's possibly true. It's also possible that the police department could de-unionize, I forget what the correct word is.
Decertify.
Decertify, and there wouldn't be a police union either. But I think it's more likely the other way.
So I had a question earlier, and it was stated that the town administrator and the board. Let me just say, my question here has no bearing on who's holding the position, it's not at all personal, I'm looking for logistics. The person who's responsible, is it the Board of Selectmen has the greater vote, or the town administrator who would be making the wage adjustments? My concern for that would be, the town administrator is answerable to the Board of Selectmen and not to the voters, whereas the Board of Selectmen is answerable to the voters. So would the voters have a say, like if you come, you know, if somebody feels that somebody got a raise or a group of people got raised that was far too large, there's no recourse if it's the town administrator. If it's the Board of Selectmen, you can vote them out. So who really would that be the point responsible for choosing?
It's the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
In this particular case, what would happen is that if this warrant article, let's say, were to be approved, we would be asking Mr. Hope to put together a plan on how he would use the $30,000. The Board of Selectmen would consider that plan, make changes to it, or approve it, or
Right.
fail it, or whatever, and ask him to go back and start over again. And then it would go forward from there and be implemented. So it would be the Board of Selectmen.
2 years ago, you said this was on a warrant. I don't remember exact, was it 2 years ago or 3 years?
No, this was not. This was the last wage adjustment
Wage
for
adjustment was on a warrant.
non-union.
And you said it failed.
It failed. It was also not recommended by the Budget Committee.
Tough times, then.
Well, but here's my question. Are times different now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, they are.
Okay.
Do you really want to go down that path?
No, you don't.
I'll be glad to spend the
I-
next
I have a-
hour.
Have a
I just
I
asked.
think Mr. Spencer has
I
a
have a
comment.
question on this. So, are we just approving the $30,000 when the people vote, or are we approving the wage plan? And the background for the question is, how is that treated in the default budget?
You are approving the $30,000 and not the wage plan.
Okay,
The wage
so-
plan's already approved, which is within the responsibilities of the Board of
How
Selectmen.
is the current wage plan reflected in the default budget?
No, because we haven't implemented this plan after it was approved. It was approved last year,
So,
and we have had no money to implement it.
So if the 30,000 passes this year, then that will be in next year's default budget,
Whatever level of adjustment we make,
30,000.
right, whatever,
But the year two would not be default, but you'd be asking for it in the regular budget then.
it would be part of the regular budget.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I want to know.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 14, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Passes 9-0.
Madam Chair, I want to recount.
Tough. Let's see, capital reserve, I don't believe we wrote on that.
No, there's no more for them.
To authorize
Nope.
funds to pay for the,
There is, the next one that you have is 17.
That's,
yeah, so we don't,
It's
not
informational,
15,
but they
not
don't vote on that
16.
either.
17 by petition. See if the
There's no
town will vote to
appropriation.
hire a part-time cable coordinator to be paid through the
Okay.
cable revolving fund. It is estimated that the total cost of wages and related taxes should not exceed $17,000, with the coordinator working approximately 20 hours per week. This would have a net cost to the 2015 general taxation of 0.
Now, Mr. Hope has informed me that this,
Oh, yeah, this is informational. This is, there's no appropriation. It comes out of the revolving fund over which you have no jurisdiction, so there's no recommendation requirement for you. This is simply, we've received this, so you know it's out there.
my apologies.
Yeah.
No problem, but I do have a question though. So would that increase the tax paid by people who have cable?
No, right now, no, because that money's already, the Board of Selectmen took a look at what's called the franchise fee. And this was a couple of years ago. And Mr. Spencer, block your ears.
I know, I
Charles, shut them off?
Just shut 'em off.
Perfect.
And what ended up happening is, we decided that what we would do is, there's two aspects to the cable committee that needs to be funded. One is the capital equipment purchases for the equipment like you see in the room there. The second issue that needs to be funded is for the hours and the time and everything else these people spend to generate this entertaining opportunity for elected officials to get together. So what we did is we set that fee at, what, 52,000 a year, as I recollect it?
Yeah, I think that was,
So that was what we decided to take the franchise fee to. Prior to that, do you remember what they were?
it was, yeah, it was at, based, we could charge the cap of 5%, and I think now we charge 2%.
Yeah, so I think we more than cut it in half. And the intention was, at that point, because we can adjust that franchise fee on a yearly basis, if I recollect correctly, what we would do is build up a capital fund that would allow us to get the equipment updated, and then what we would do after that is drop the franchise fee again, so that it would simply cover the labor aspect of it, and then when we needed more capital equipment, we'd reconsider where we set the franchise fee again. So that's the way we're doing it. What we're trying to do is drop it as much as we could to make it zero, to be perfectly honest with you.
All right, so there's no action needed by the committee on Article 17. So that brings us to the end of the warrant articles. Member input, new business. Just a reminder that we will be doing the school final votes on Thursday. I will be emailing the committee, because we're doing it by the MS-27 form that we submit. I have a draft of that. I will be emailing it to you so you can see. It clusters certain areas together, so take a look at it and look and see if you have adjustments to make in other parts of the budget, and see if you can figure out where it fits. If not, we'll figure it out on Thursday, but just so you get an idea of what it is we're looking at to have done.
I have a question about the school budget. The the number of laptops that this committee, that was leased, that was removed from the budget, how many were they, the laptops, do you remember? And I forgot which budget it was in now.
It was the LMS budget, the 3-year, $7,800,
Yeah,
that was the
remember.
first year lease payment. I don't recall how many laptops it was.
I'm sorry?
I don't recall.
Oh, okay, so 7,800, do you know the total number, if it wasn't a lease, if it was an outright purchase?
I believe it was at the end of the lease.
No, yeah, like, for example, the actual raw number, if you would, whatever that number of laptops were, if you actually just go and buy them as opposed to leasing them, because the 7,800 obviously included, interest and lease fees,
I
so
believe Mr. York,
I-
mistaken, said the number of 30,000.
I thought he was gonna send it, but we didn't see anything.
don't know
So
why
it
it's
couldn't have been
there.
30,000, because if you do 7,800 times 3, it comes out to less, and you gotta take out interest. Because I would like to know that number before the next meeting, please, if we can.
Yep.
And will we be seeing that a breakdown of how you're getting to that, what, $80,000 severance pack, the thing that you guys wanted to add to the?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any backup on that.
No. I didn't think we were gonna get any detail on that because it involved HR things.
It really
and-
doesn't.
Pardon?
That really doesn't.
He was gonna provide numbers.
Pardon?
Mr. Markowitz did say he was gonna provide a breakdown.
Yeah.
Number of days, time.
I mean, it's public knowledge.
Won't be names, but there'll be numbers.
No, that's fine. I just-
Well, actually, the names become public knowledge too, because it goes in the budget when you actually pay it out. You look, everybody lists on the budget.
Well, their
It's
salaries
all
are
public
listed
knowledge.
in
I
the,
mean,
meeting.
employee salaries are public knowledge. None of that is privileged. Really isn't.
30 desktops.
It was
So the
30.
$7,800 is a new lease, 30 desktops for classroom teacher use. Current desktops are 7+ years old. So I don't know, whatever 30 desktops are.
So if you subtract the interest, it might be
I'll go have you stuff.
20,000 total, I don't know, but, yeah. I guess if you're able to get that tomorrow, that'd be great.
Anything else?
Okay, just one thing. We have a budget hearing coming up. You're going to post a budget committee meeting,
Immediately
After.
following, yep,
post it, and the same thing with deliberative session.
yes.
Okay.
I've already put the legal notices in for the
Yep.
budget committee, so.
I think the law has changed that technically covers you after the deliberative session now, but there's no harm in...
Maybe, but the budget hearing doesn't, because
Right.
we close one and then open the other one.
Right.
Anything else under member input? Hearing none. Public input, we don't seem to have gained any members of the public. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Oh, I hate that part. The getting up out of the chair.